Hello and welcome back to the Sisters of the System. You just listened to Red Rock Woman by Young Spirits.
That's my stuff. That's my stuff.
Yes, and we did a little bit of the live music. So that last artist, I think, was Clones and the Grouch. I haven't heard of him, but he was singing. Well, you guys, we are back with a special guest interview with a member of our community. Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
My name's Julia Green.
Welcome. Can you hear her?
Yeah, can you hear?
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that she was...
Can y'all hear me? No, I'm just kidding.
Hello. Well, Julia, please tell our listeners who you are and what work you do in the community, especially with the Native American community in Minnesota.
I am a reconnecting Native in the community. My dad belonged to the Leech Lake tribe of Ojibwe here in Minnesota. He made his journey back to the Star Nation in February. So a lot of what I do in the community, I dedicate to him and his memory and his legacy. Right now, I work in a program through a nonprofit serving Native-specific youth of any gender identity between the ages of 12 and 26 that have experience with or are at risk of sexual exploitation and trafficking.
You mentioned working with Native youth who are vulnerable or have experienced sexual exploitation and trafficking. What is the greatest impact that you feel your work makes within your community, and what is something you'd like listeners to know about the work you do to protect these youth affected by these issues?
I think the greatest impact of my work is helping future generations break cycles, especially cycles that are, rooted in intergenerational trauma, historical trauma, and just deep-rooted issues that came with colonialism that we didn't have before first contact, which includes sexual exploitation, human trafficking, as well as addiction and domestic violence.
A lot of the work that you do can be pretty heavy, for any human being. What is it like for you as a Native American woman navigating this work and navigating through the field itself?
I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. Especially being a Native person working within my own community, there's a lot of rewards and there's a lot of setbacks, especially because you a lot of times know these families that you're working with on a personal level. It could be somebody's niece or somebody's daughter or somebody's son or somebody's nephew, grandson, granddaughter that you know that family. And a lot of times when you're working with these families, you know the prerequisite situations that have led these youth to be in the survival situations that they are. And being able to provide services and support to these families through the work that I do is rewarding in a way where, we get to change those narratives, we get to move away from those stereotypes, and we really get to set a new foundation for our next 7 generations, because everything that we do isn't just for us. It's for our people. It's for the community. It's for the future generations who aren't here yet. It's for the past generations who weren't able to come out of those cycles or were fighting for, their independence to be free from the harm of colonial intact.
Before we move on into our next question, I would just like to say thank you for all the work that you do within the community and putting yourself on the front lines for these kids, whether the kid is white, Native American, black. They need people like you and like the members in the community that stand up for them to ensure that they have a brighter future. You're a pillar within the community, and I want you to absolutely know that, honor that, and cherish that, because what you do is absolutely beautiful and so necessary right now.
Absolutely, especially when talking about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and children.
Yeah, we were talking about on the way here, we wanted to highlight and bring focus to the missing and murdered Indigenous children in the community, and that's something that you kind of act as a break for. You put a stop for that and offer them support, navigating these things that are actually affecting them.
Yeah, the navigation piece is really unlearning things as I go too, because you a lot of times have to teach these kids life skills and independent living skills, and just how to be a human being outside of survival, which is something that usually isn't modeled in a lot of Native households because it was never modeled for their parents. It was never modeled for their grandparents. A lot of Native families, everything that they know, or a lot of things that they know, come from the trauma of the boarding residential schools. And it comes from, the trauma of being removed from their families through CPS, or, like in Canada, they had the 60s scoop, where they were taking Native kids and placing them in white families for assimilation purposes. We really get to undo a lot of these things that have been done to us, and it's up to us to continue to move in a good way and model good behaviors and healthy living coping mechanisms for our youth, because when they have that and we instill that in ourselves, we get to heal our own traumas. We get to become that medicine.
I definitely think it's important to highlight how to operate outside of survival mode. In a lot of households, it's just not modeled because people are just fighting every day for a breath of air,
Mm-hmm.
And I think regrounding yourself, and for our listeners that are listening, hearing that, do a little bit of reflection. Are you in survival mode? And are you every day practicing life in survival mode? And do you have children that are witnessing you practice life in survival mode? Think about that. Try to reground yourself. Try to find time for yourself, and try to learn how to better regulate those emotions so that you can display to your child how to operate life and how to practice living life outside of survival mode.
No, that's so important, and being able to identify the traumas and how they affect you. A lot of us, we can sit and talk about all that we've been through, and for some of us, especially those within the community where our families have been faced with generational trauma, the Black community, the Native community, sometimes our issues become centralized within our nervous systems, where we can't break out of it no matter how we sit and focus on it, how we sit and talk about it with a therapist for hours a week. Sometimes focusing on where you feel those emotions in your body is a step that you can take. When you feel upset, okay, well, I feel that in my chest. I feel angry. Take a deep breath. Hit that high breath. I talk about it all the time, but hit that high breath. Activate that vagus nerve and bring it back down and say, okay, well, that's what it feels like when I'm angry, but this is what it feels like when I'm calming down. That's not an emotion that a lot of us are familiar with because we're used to being, I'm angry and now I'm getting popped in the mouth, or I'm getting screamed at, or I'm getting told to go in a room by myself. So finding out how to identify how you feel when you calm down, that's one step you can take in recognizing when you are behaving as if you are a product of your environment. That's something I speak about all the time because a lot of us don't realize the people that are around us, the food that we eat, the music that we listen to, the TV that we watch, we're consuming all of that within our brains and our spirit, and reenacting it whether we know it or not.
It's definitely influencing us.
Oh, it definitely. All these little girls acting like they on Bad Girls Club. I'm like,
oh, baby, they acting like they on Baddies.
No, Bad Girls Club was like
on,
junior. Baddies is the senior version.
Yes, they are on Baddies now. Like, we got little 5-year-olds talking about, I want to be Rolly for Halloween. Like,
oh my, talking about baddie shot o'clock. You don't
oh
sit down.
God.
Hold on.
And then another thing I just want to mention, and I just want to say, especially for the parents that are listening, I take care of a lot of kids, and I, adopt a lot of kids. And we joked about it a little bit earlier, but I think it's something that a lot of parents should think about. Do your children feel protected, seen, heard, and safe by you? Because it's hard to think about that when you are living in survival mode and when you are all the time in fight mode, in flight mode. It's just something to think about. Just something to think about. I've had to do some things myself these last few years to change, to make myself a little bit more intentional when it comes to parenting. Mm-hmm. And I see it a lot more than ever today, that a lot of kids, I'm parenting a lot of kids because they're not being parented at home. Mm-hmm. So not a dig, just something to think about, because sometimes we don't notice and we don't recognize it until we actually sit down and think, well, when is the last time I asked my baby how was school and actually sat down and listened to his response and figured out what he might have learned? Or when is the last time I checked my baby's backpack? Or when is the last time me and my baby sat down and ate together or cooked a meal together even? Mm-hmm. Things to think about.
And definitely recognizing, do you feel seen, heard, and listened to as a parent? It might be hard to ask for help sometimes or to reach out to your community, but that's important. The saying, it takes a village, is a common saying for a reason. So reach out to your village. If you don't feel supported, you don't feel heard, that is going to pour out and spill onto your children. Mm-hmm. 9 times out of 10, it's going to come out in yelling and aggression and ignoring them to sit on your phone or whatever it is to numb what's going on. You got to reach out to your community and go and talk to the people around you. Go and sit and enjoy family dinners with people, whether it's your family or not. And you got to come out to events like we're hosting. Find community. Find someone to lean on.
Yes, because your babies see you. They see you. When you mention that phone thing, your babies see it. They'll be like, my mama and my daddy, they stay on their phone. My daddy plays the game all day. They see it.
Oh, we've definitely had kids directly tell us that, like, oh, my mom doesn't really like to talk to me. She likes to sit on her phone. And that's something that, I think we minimize because this is the first generation growing up fully with smartphones, right? So they came about when we were young and we got introduced to them. And now these kids are being raised by parents with phone addictions, and they have them themselves at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old.
Screaming and hollering because they got to get their phone too.
I need my phone. Look, a lot of us go through it. It's terrible. It's something that affects all of us across the board. And being able to take that moment, put your phone down, read an entire book with your child for 15 minutes.
Yes.
That will literally be something that they will hold on to for life. My mama read to me for every day. That's 15 minutes out of 24 hours in your day.
And honestly, before we move on, because I know we got to get going on to something else. You guys, our kids watch a lot of movies and they watch a lot of fairy tales. And reading to your kids at night is something that they see in almost every movie with a child and a parent. They will remember that core memory for a lifetime and appreciate you for that. Try it.
I'm telling you, that's Sunny's favorite part of her day. And I've actually written 2 books for my daughter. So I read her book, her second one I just wrote for her. And literally when I was done, she said, that's about me Sunday? I said, yeah, that's about you, baby. Oh, mommy, I love you so much.
Well, before we move on, while we're moving on, are there any words that you would like to share for our listeners, especially the younger Native generation listening, who might hear this message tonight?
Especially for the younger ones, like, the roots remember their flowers. So, even though you might be going through it right now, you walk with 10,000 ancestors. And they are always with you, and they don't forget you. And the things that happen to you in your life aren't necessarily your fault. It's a bigger, more complex issue than that, even though the blame may be put on you, or you may feel like it's your fault. It's not. And at the end of the day, as much as we struggle, we're blessed because our ancestors didn't just leave us with resilience. They left us with hope. They left us with joy. They left us with knowledge. And they left us a way to be able to go forward in a good way.
Yes, they did. With all, I mean, just thinking about the medicine that we have through plants and the practices that we've had for centuries and centuries for healing, holistic healing, spiritual healing. They definitely left us with the tools. And for a lot of us that are Native American and only have a small percentage that aren't tapped in with your roots, I highly recommend and encourage that you tap in.
Yeah, we're waiting for you to come home.
Well, as we know, this month, November, was Native and Indigenous Heritage Month. So how can listeners show support this month and throughout the year to the Native community, especially those facing disparity?
You know, that's a loaded question.
So that's one I need to think about, girl. Hold up.
Yeah. You know, that's a loaded question because I have social media just like everybody else. And there's a lot of presence of Native issues in our local media and news circuit, between different stations that cover things. And, I go through the comments and the rabbit hole just like everybody else on social media. And a lot of the things that I see are misconceptions and stereotypes and false narratives about who we are, the relationship and benefits that, we have with the government or we get from the government, which is none, by the way. Just all of these things that have been so deeply rooted into who and what people think natives are. I need y'all to unlearn that because we're not primitive people. We don't get monetary stipends from the government. The reason that Mystic Lake has the per cap that they have is because of their gaming industry, their casinos, the amphitheater, the concerts that they do. And that is not the case per every tribal nation.
And I think that's super duper important, like for everybody to get that piece. A lot of tribes get per cap and a larger per cap amount because of the casino and gaming industry. Not every tribe has a casino or a gaming industry.
No, they they don't. And the food commodities and things that we do get from the government, those are per treaties. That is what the government agreed to. The federal U.S. government. That's what they agreed to when. They said we're going to swindle your land, basically.
And allow you to have a piece of it back.
Yep, give you a little taste back. Terrible.
But even with Minnesota history, if you look at the Dakota War of 1862, that was started because the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the merchants who were in Dakota territories that were settler merchants, they didn't want to give out the rations and, the food distribution and things that the natives were promised. And when you've got a people who are starving, you've killed off their buffalo, you've relocated them, you've made it so that they can't hunt, they can't fish, they can't go look for, berries or forage. What are people going to do?
So I think that a lot of you guys listening to what Julia has to say have to remember doing your own research and actually learning if it's important to you, and it should be, what Native Americans truly are is going to be the best support that you can provide to the community. You guys, You know what time it is. We got to let DJ Alien Wife on. It has been an amazing episode. Thank you, Julia, for coming out and interviewing with us and allowing us to ask you some questions on this month's topic. We really appreciate your input.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you guys, and you can go check out the Native exhibit that's on display at the Minnesota History Museum this month. Next week, we will not be at the library. We're on holiday break, so we'll see you December 3rd for Sit and Create. This Saturday, please be sure to hit that jot form so you can come and eat some dinner with us and have a great time at the Serve the Soul event.
And don't forget, Toys for Tots form is up. You have 5 days. Let's get some toys. This has been an amazing episode of Sisters of the System. I'm DJ E.B. Marie.
I'm DJ Ricky Furiosa.
And I'm Julia Green.
And we're out. Chill.
No.